Welcome everyone to the mega Critics Roundtable of 2022. We have a panel full of film critics, writers, reviewers, and cinephiles. So I hope we have a great night talking about our favorite films of the year. Now I know many of them don't need introduction, but I still do it, So it will be fun. So from the top left, I'll start. We have Bhardwaj Rangan. We have Raunaq Mangotill, we have Ishita Sen Gupta, we have Sachin Chatte, we have Ashamira Ayappan, we have Vishal Menon, we have the Jimmy Cage, we have Rahul Desai, and we have Josh Otado, and I'm also there at the end. So welcome everyone. I hope you had a good year, and thanks, first of all, thank you to join this, because I think some of you have done roundtables before, so I know you would know how difficult it gets.
Yeah, some of us.
But thank you, all of you.
I've never done one, so.
Oh, you'll take experience from here.
But not today. This year. Today you haven't done one, right?
Vishal's poison bulbs. He's just brought a whole crew full of them. Thank you, Vishal.
So everyone watching it live, guys, thank you. Hit that like button and keep asking your questions. I'll try to ask them at the end of the stream if there's time. But before that, just to warm up the panel, I had a question prepared. So, there's always a debate with filmmakers that should, filmmakers be responsible for what they are showing, or should they just follow their vision, what they're trying to say? So I want to ask you guys, do you think that critics and reviewers should also be responsible for what they are writing about a movie or talking about a movie?
Do you want to ask specific people, Nona? Because that might be easier.
Okay. You, sir, you can start.
No, I didn't mean that. I mean, you want to ask specific people. I want to hear Rahul on this. So let's go with Rahul.
I thought Nona was moderating this.
There's been a change in plan.
We'll keep it casual.
I'm finding it very difficult to give up control, moderating control of a round table. So I need about 5 minutes to kind of ease up and pretend that I'm on the other side. So.
So who's going?
You can start.
Just repeat the question again.
So, do you think, as a film critic, as a film reviewer, you should be responsible of what you are writing about a film? Just as there's a debate about filmmakers should be responsible about the movies they're making.
That goes without saying, actually. Anyone putting out anything into public space out there, they need to be responsible. Sometimes, publications can control what you write or cannot write. Sometimes the critics themselves have to sort of be responsible. And I think as your career advances as a critic, you learn how to be a little more responsible and mature about the things you write. I mean, God knows, even I've learned the hard way, because, I started out as a very brash sort of critic, and over the years I felt like I've started to be a little more careful and a little more respectful of the stuff I write about. So
okay,
actually that's an excellent point, actually, because even for me, I get a lot of questions about how I've supposedly toned down or become whatever word they want to use, but it's actually this. It's like when you're younger, you're brasher, and you kind of you're constantly in attack mode. I don't know for what reason, but you just kind of, it's like you want everybody to live up to your highest expectations. And then gradually, as you grow older, you realize that doesn't always happen. But then there is still respect for the process and for the other things, which, that doesn't change the fact that the movie is good or bad or whatever it is. But the way you write about it definitely becomes a little more mindful of you're not going to go and just slam them right off the bat. Yeah, so that's actually a great point, Rahul. I mean, it's something that I've been wanting to say.
Sachin, sir?
I think it's also something we learn over a period of time, because initially, as both of them rightly said, and most of the time when people read the reviews, they love a review which is which is going hammer and tongs against somebody. That kind of so whenever sometimes you write a review or you've seen a film and people say कि उसका अच्छे से बजाया कि नहीं तुमने. So that also somehow at some time plays on you, and then you realize that you need to take 2 steps back and you say like, okay, that's not necessarily the thing we have to do, and put things in perspective. And so I guess initially sometimes, and that's the easiest thing to do. To trash a film is not the hardest thing. To write something nice or to find some better nuances in a film is much more difficult than trashing a film. So that's also something we learn over a period of time.
Okay, Josh.
I actually have something that's
sure. Go ahead.
No, that's just an extension of what he was just saying, because there's a certain traction, there's a certain engagement that negative reviews get, especially on video. As a YouTuber, I'm very sure that you would know how it works. So, but there's a certain very dire need to stay respectful, and one thumb of rule I've always maintained for myself is that it's always about the film and not about the maker. And I think that's something that's worked for me a lot of times, because it's what I've discovered or learned so far with my experience is that someone can go wrong sometimes, but they can come back in a completely unexpected, unrecognizable manner and fashion in terms of their craft or their film. So it's always about the film and not about who that person is or who that filmmaker is. So what I try to do personally in my way of staying respectful is that my comments always stay about the film, and it doesn't, unless it's positive or unless it's extremely important to make that point, like if it's not being socially politically correct or socially responsible, until it goes to that degree, I think it's better to stick to the film and not cross over that boundary and comment on the filmmaker or the technicians involved, or even the actors involved for that matter.
Josh?
Well, as everyone said so far, I think that it is a matter of, it's a maturation process. As you write more, you learn, oh, I didn't need to say that. That was not necessary. That wasn't part of my criticism of the film. But at the same time, like I do feel, are we responsible for the things we put out into the world? Yes, just as much as anyone else is responsible for the things they put out into the world. But I don't necessarily feel that it's important that we are beholden to those old ideas, those old things that we put out in the world forever. I think that's one of the things that's changing now, is that because the way that we write, all of our output is in the world forever. It's not a newspaper. It's one day's news and then it's gone, and it's hard to find later on. If someone wants to see what I wrote about something 10 or 15 years ago, they can find it very easily. And I don't know about you guys, but I was a very different person 15 years ago. I was a very different writer when I was 28 than I am now at 43. I've learned a lot, and I don't know that I agree with that guy anymore, about a lot of things. And so part of it is the responsibility that we have for putting things out there, but I think there's also a reciprocal responsibility to the reader a little bit to say, oh, well, this person said this thing 15 years ago. Before I rake them over the coals for that, maybe I should approach them and see if they still feel that way, or have that discussion with the current timing, the current social mores, the current social atmosphere. Have I learned a lot? Have they learned a lot? Like, if 15 years ago, reader met 15 years later reader, would they also agree with themselves? So I think it goes both ways. It's just that as the writer, we're kind of stuck in that position of like, this is a time capsule of what I said, and oops, like I don't mean that anymore. I'm sorry. So yeah, there is some kind of responsibility, but I think it's a very dangerous thing to hold someone to something they said that long ago.
Ishita?
So I actually wanted to ask while I was listening to them. So sometimes for me, I think when I'm watching a film by some maker, and I totally get what Ashwini just said, that you don't go to the maker, but what I find, like, I think when I'm writing, I go to the maker when I feel like the maker has consistently been lazy or smug about, certain things, and you see it repeatedly in film after film. I think that is when I'll probably point it out in my writing, that this is a problem. The problem lies with the person who is creating more than the product here. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I'm 30, so I'll probably, when I'm 42, I'll probably look back and think maybe I was wrong. But it happens to me a lot, because it's like when you're writing, you also invest a lot of time, analyzing the film, and so I think it's only fair to probably just look at where the problem lies. And sometimes when you look at certain directors or filmmakers, you realize there is a how should I put it? Like, there is a laziness to it, which I find. So I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I do tend to point it out in my writing.
I think that's fair.
No, it's like two different things. I also like to kind of think about this like how Josh described it. I don't really let the external things affect me so much as the internal things, So, of course, when I go back and read reviews that I've written 7 or 8 years ago, there are like entire chunks that I would never write now, or I know that it's like it's rubbish and it's very easy. And and especially things that I used to do, like the second you're watching a film, you start thinking in sentences, you start thinking in headlines, you start thinking in straps. I've decided not to do that, So after you kind of make that decision, and and all of us have been through so many movies where you go with a particular notion and the opposite has happened, exactly what you expected has happened, everything has happened. So I just don't think about the movie anymore, however big it is, however small, I just go into it. So it's become a very personal kind of a thing now. I'm not really worried about if I write this, will this guy give me an interview? I don't think about all that. I just write what I feel like writing, and then, because it's so easy, right? Because none of us are people who try to write to be the first review out there. All of us take our time. So it's very easy to just go on Twitter and just decide what to write. But the point is, we shouldn't do that, and we stick to what we genuinely feel. So not so much external, but internally, yeah. I'm responsible for myself, and to myself later on.
Jimmy?
Yeah, and I think that, just to add to Vishal's point, I think that's important, because sometimes it takes you a while to clear the gunk out of your mind and form a clear opinion about a film, because I'm not saying that you won't have a gut feel. Of course, you'll have a gut feel, but that if it's a very strong gut feel, you might find other factors coming in as you think about the movie that kind of that kind of make the movie a little, I don't know, better than you thought it was, or worse than you thought it was, or whatever it is. And to kind of immediately, which is why that whole trend of people coming out of a movie hall and then mics being thrust into their faces, and how was the movie, picture kaisi thi, what have been there, whatever it is. It's like it's very because they're just giving what they feel at that moment. They're not being given time to think or whatever it is, or process it or whatever, because there's lots of people who say things, even, I'm not talking about critics, but even regular people who say things like, the first time I saw it, I didn't like it that much, but then the second time I saw it, I liked it. That's only because the first time, I think there's so much noise around a film. And so to kind of immediately, put things out on Twitter, which has become the fashion these days, as soon as you watch a film, really kind of takes away from the fact that you could think a little differently about it a few hours from now. So,
Jimmy?
I think it's pretty great that Nona just throws out this question that we can probably talk about the entire roundtable about. So you all made great points so far. I want to keep it short. I think, as you just said, sometimes you come out of a movie and you have your gut feeling, and I try to find a good balance because sometimes I do have to put out the review as fast as possible. For example, Avatar 2, the press screening was in the morning and the embargo already lifted a few hours after it. So it was pretty much my gut feeling that I tried to put down in text. So I think the most important responsibility that I have is that I be honest, that I find my honest take on the movie. Don't let myself get impressed by other reviews or what other people have said. Not that it's also important to take in what other people tell you about a movie, because they engage with it. Maybe they engage with it from a different perspective. They're coming from a totally different point of view, and that's great. You want to take that in, but you still want to stick to your honest thoughts as well. And I also think that Josh made a great point about that sometimes, or pretty much all of the time, your opinion can change. So what you said when the movie came out can be very different a year later. It can be very different maybe a week later. So I think the audience or the readers should also know that this is a human being who's talking about a movie, and we all change, and so our takes on movies also change.
Okay. Chat is very angry. I didn't ask Raunaq yet. Go ahead.
Firstly, I don't know what responsible actually means, because responsible might differ according to each person, right? Like everyone has their own definition of what responsible is. Secondly, I think you realize you're irresponsible only after you put things out, like after a while, the reaction that you get, because everyone learns like that, right? But personally, if there's like a barometer, it's something that all of you have said in a way, right? It's one thing is personal attacks, if you can avoid personal attacks as much as possible, because we know who we're talking about, in the sense like whoever is on YouTube, and then most of their reviews are only about personal attacks on people, about body shaming and all of that, about whether the maker or the actor or whatever it is. And so when you do that, you stop being a critic or a reviewer. You're calling it a review, but you're actually something else. In the sense, I'm not saying some bad word. You're an entertainer, or you're a stand-up comic taken out of context. But second thing, there's one particular thing that pissed me off this year. Like there was one critic, and then he represents a lot of critics also, is when you look down upon a certain form of cinema. Like if you're looking down, for example, if someone looks down upon RRR, like in the sense like this kind of movie
Tread carefully.
Deserve like this kind of film does not deserve to get awards, or does not deserve to travel. This does not represent India. That means you don't love films. I think you love wanting to love films. You love being a cinephile and having the last say in pretty much everything, being like gatekeeper of things. I think that is responsible. Otherwise, I'm guilty of doing all of these things in my past also. So I guess we all learn.
Yep. So there was a long warm-up session, but Abhay got amazing answers to that, and I think I would love to go back and listen to each and everyone again, because I think the youngest on the panel, so I need to learn a lot. But there's some amazing questions coming in the chat. But again, guys, we'll start with what we have planned already. Maybe next year we'll take up those questions, or maybe at the end of the stream. But the first question,
we might still be on this at the end of this year, into next year.
The first question everyone's asking, where is the table? I'm not kidding. Everyone in front of them has a table, so it is a round table, guys. So just want to clarify that. And a lot of questions to BR, why there are no subtitles on that interview.
Subtitles take a lot of time and money, so they will come up soon. But yeah, we'll put them up soon. Yeah.
Great.
Or we'll dub it.
So let's begin. So my first one is, so we have all these questions for which that film made you think that, and this and that. So the first thing, what is the most watched film of this year for each of you? So for example, for me, it was RRR, I think 11 or 12 times. Not bragging about it, but what about all of you? And why? Why do you think you wanted to rewatch, or by chance it happened that you got to rewatch it multiple times? I'll start with Josh.
For me, it was also RRR. Oh, sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, for me it was also Triple R, but only 3 times. This year I simply didn't have the time to watch many movies more than once. But Triple R, I watched it a second time when I was in Germany with my family, and my father has never seen an Indian movie in his life. But this movie was on Netflix, so I thought he's totally into action. He likes action comedy, so why not try to watch this movie together? And he totally loved it. So that was the second time. And then the third time was just 2 weeks ago, because here in Vienna, there was a special screening. They wanted to show it one more time on the big screen. And the third time was actually the very first time that I finally saw it in Telugu. The other 2 times was the Hindi version. So yeah, Triple R 3 times.
All right. Josh?
I mean, probably. So
Maybe
for
we should
those
ask him
who
which
may
is the
not
second
know-
best,
Yeah,
second most viewed film.
So I've traveled with Triple R quite a bit. I've seen it 9 times on the big screen and 15 or 20 overall. Just not all for work. A lot of them have been just because it's a great movie and I love watching it. It's a lot of fun. But second most would be Everything Everywhere All at Once. I find that movie endlessly rewatchable. I had the privilege, great privilege, of seeing it at the South by Southwest world premiere, where I managed to get the publicist, and they got me a ticket last minute, and I got in there a little bit earlier than the rest of the crowd. And when you go into those big festival screenings, they have like seats roped off for all the talent or whatever. And I saw where Michelle Yeoh and Jamie Lee Curtis and Ki Hui Kwan were sitting. They had their names on the seats on the aisle, so I sat directly across the aisle from them, just so I could like watch them the whole time. That was a very memorable experience that first time, because I got to watch them all cry at the movie for a little over 2 hours. It was pretty amazing. But then I went and took my family once I got back home, and it released in theaters. And then another theater just opened up here in town, a new theater, and they used Everything Everywhere All at Once as sort of their preview screening, just to have a few critics in and check out the room. And so we went and saw it again there, and it never gets less amazing. I love that film a lot.
Good. Rahul? Can I guess?
Yeah, sure.
Is it
Go on.
Decision to Leave?
Oh man, yeah. So I haven't really had the chance to watch any film this year more than twice. And like in case of Geraya, for example, I watched that twice, but both times it was for work because I couldn't figure out how to review the film the first time. So I watched it again because I was having a tough time writing a review.
Sorry, which film was this?
Geraya.
Okay.
Geraya.
Yeah. So that was the first, and Decision to Leave was more out of pleasure because the first time I did it to review it, and the second time because we were at a festival together in Kerala. I wanted to watch it on the big screen, and it's one of my favorite films of the year. So yeah, so I only watched like both films twice. I haven't watched any film more than that.
Okay. Vishal?
I've seen Triple R, Vikram, all the blockbusters. I've seen it maybe a couple of times, but the second time I went to watch people watch it because I had seen the movie and my reactions were pretty much the opposite of what everybody else in the country and the world felt. So I just went to see what people are watching. But then, of course, there are like the interval scene, not the interval scene, the scene in Triple R, the animal scene. I've seen it maybe 20 times. There's a fight scene in Tallumala inside a theater that I've seen maybe. I watch it like it's a song music video. So there are those individual scenes that I keep watching, but not more than twice. Yeah.
Ashamira?
I think it was Ponniyin Selvan for me because it was kind of. I'm not sure how to explain this, but the film actually brought in generations back to the theater. I mean, I had my mom who who was actually a lot into watching movies, but couldn't, because she's gotten older and there was COVID and all that. And she really wanted to watch it, because she's such a huge fan of the novel. And it became that movie where you just go back and back with different people and watch that spectacle just unravel, and it's that kind of a story as well. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the novel as well. So for me, I think it was also very personal because I got to watch films with my mom again after a very, very long time, and that was very. That was actually one of the biggest takeaways for me, for the film, because I know people who brought their grandmothers back to the theaters. and that doesn't happen very often. So for me, it would be Ponniyin Selvan. I think I watched it 3 times. Yeah,
Great.
with different sets of people, family, friends, for work, blah blah blah. Yeah.
Even I want to say I saw Triple R with different set of people, not alone. Every time. Sachin sir.
I saw Triple R only once. I would love to watch it again, but only if there's an audience.
Yeah.
In a theater, not just alone. I think the lady who wrote for Roger Ebert's website said a very nice line that my only regret is that I didn't watch Triple R with an audience.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as much as I love the film, I saw it once, but the film that I saw 2.5 times would be Park Chan-wook's Decision to Leave.
Okay.
First, not in a theater, then in a theater, and then just to see what else happened in the movie. Because there's so much happening and so much happening in such a brilliant way, and then it gets you thinking, how can this man who's already achieved so much raise the bar again, so high in terms of story, in terms of crafts, in terms of camera movements, everything. So absolutely great. And if there's another movie which I would want to watch again, would be No Bears, the Jafar Panahi film. Again, so layered and so complex that you can only take so much of it in the first viewing, and you would want to watch it again to see again what else happened in the movie, because there is so much happening.
Yeah. Ishita?
Okay, I think I should just put it out there that I haven't watched Triple R.
Wow, Josh.
Okay.
I've watched it enough for all of us.
But if just coming to your question, if I haven't rewatched, I don't think I've watched the film twice this year, but I have gone back to watch moments. And for me, it was Shakun Batra's Gehraiya, that scene with Nasiruddin and Deepika in the room. That's my most favorite scene of the year. So I have gone back and watched it a lot of times.
Great. Raunaq?
Vikram, Triple R, PS1, all of these three. But mainly, I think Vikram, I watched it around 4 times to get different groups of people, but mainly to take my mom. Because like Asha Meera said, it's like a very relatable thing. Over the last 2 years, like none of us have been able to go to theaters much, especially with our parents and stuff. And another complaint my mom has is that she's not seen like a good Tamil film in quite a while. Like, she's pretty fed up of it. I don't know if anything good came out in the last 2 years, like during the pandemic types, right?
Jai Bhim? Let's not go there. Okay.
Not on OTT.
Okay.
No. It's a good film. Like all of yeah. Theatrical release wise, like there's nothing really good that came. So I just wanted to make sure that she feels like Tamil cinema is not dead or anything like that. And she is someone who's gone deep into Korean, Malayalam film, and lots of other language films over the last couple of years. And I'm really glad that she liked it.
Pargal sir?
Such a huge responsibility, but Raunaq.
Yeah.
Sorry, sir.
I generally watch a movie again in the theater only if I think it's going to be cinematically interesting the second time, because the first time you mostly follow narratively, though you also find it cinematically interesting. So there were quite a few, but I want to mention a couple that people haven't mentioned. Apart from the usual Ponniyin Selvan, I saw 3 times. Vikram, I saw 3 times in the theater. All the other issues. I want to mention 2 films which one I saw on Mubi, and I was reminded of when Sachin talked about Park Chan-wook's film, was I saw Drive My Car, and I was so stunned by it that I actually saw the movie again right then. So that day I spent 6 hours watching Drive My Car. That was like incredibly moving for me. That was one. Of course, that's not the theater, but there was an excellent film called Gargi that came out this year in Tamil. And the thing about what really appealed to me is it's a usually these movies are usually terrible in Tamil because they just they just blurt out the dialogues at you and make it sound like lectures about do this, don't do that, and all that. There's no real craft. But the director of this film really knew what he was doing, and I was hugely impressed by how he took a subject like this and treated it like so cinematically. That was like stunning for me. I was like really blown over my mind by what this director did in Gargi. His name is Gautam, and that was one movie. And another film that really was fantastic to watch on the big screen again was this Dhanush movie called Tiruchitrambalam.
Yeah.
Again, a very on the surface, it sounds like a rom-com, but it's actually not a rom-com. It's like this very dysfunctional drama. So the screenplay is so incredibly layered that I just wanted to go back once more and just see how they constructed the scenes, because it's actually a story of a loser who's got a very deep, like complexes and delusions and things like that. Not delusions, complex and a trauma that he's kind of not really recovered from. And the way they've kept this dark, it's almost like there's this layer of very chocolate cake, and on top of it there's this like sweet icing. So so it's like it's not just the bitterness that you take away. And I thought that was an extraordinary screenplay. That was just something that I really liked a lot. And another one was Jalsa. I really liked that movie a lot. Though I think that was an OTT release, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And I saw it a couple of times on OTT. I really liked that movie. The way it was done,
The sound design.
again, like a very simple movie in terms of, like, you don't have to necessarily stage it so well, but it was so well staged that these are some of the films that I kind of, apart from the usual things that everybody else said. So yeah.
Yeah. So the next one will be the most innovative film according to you. Innovation can be in the screenplay, it can be technically the visual editing, whatever. But something which you find this is very innovative. I've not seen anything like this before. Who wants to start?
Okay, I'm gonna start.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna start because it's one of my favorite films of the year, and I think I was just amazed by how they could even conceive it in the first place. And it's everything everywhere all at once. And just seeing that entire film and then going and reading about how they made it, and the kind of, to just have a people of 6-7 people work on a film of this scale, and which requires VFX of this scale, and even in terms of the ideas they put through in the film, so complex, so high concept, and yet so simple. And that's an incredibly challenging balance to crack. And actually, when again, this is a personal film for me, because when I was watching this film, I had a fatigue of sorts. I think all of us face it, like, because you watch so much of content, and there goes this one point. I'm like, oh my god, no! I need something that makes me want to, I get that inspiration again to write about films. And again, from inside, you do it for work anyway. But that film was just joy, like genuine joy. And I think that's probably my, I can keep going on.
Anyone has the same pick?
Yeah, same.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
To start
Okay,
with, yeah.
Jimmy?
I think it's a great
I think we all
pick,
pretty much
and
said. Please go ahead.
I mean, it's so beloved, and I think it's my favorite movie of the year. But that's also why I picked another little movie that I think nobody really knows about. I saw it at a small horror fantasy festival in Vienna, and it's called The Timekeepers of Eternity. And this is an experimental movie that's only 65 minutes long. And it's basically, there's this 1995 Stephen King adaptation of The Langoliers. It was a TV movie, 3 hours long. It was a pretty bad movie. And the director of The Timekeepers of Eternity took that movie and kind of printed every single frame and rearranged it and cut it down from 3 hours to only 65 minutes. And it's in black and white, and it has this paper aesthetic, this crumbling paper that's torn apart and stuff like that, which totally fits to the themes of the movie, which is about time and times that are splitting apart, time zones and stuff like that. And I don't want to give too much away, but if you know the original, The Langoliers, then The Timekeepers of Eternity is really awesome, and I think a very innovative experimental movie.
Okay. Rahul?
I think
Go.
No, literally what Ashamira said, like word to word. Same pick, same sentiments. I just have to add that it's just a victory for everyone that such a film like that even exists today, or that it could be made on that scale today. And even it rescued me. It brought me back to life as a critic also, because I was going through massive fatigue at the same time. I think September was around the time everyone started losing their minds. So yeah, same thing. No other film came close.
Sachin sir?
Yeah, I mean, that pretty much is the topic. But the other film that really I loved, absolutely, and where the director himself has pushed the boundaries was, again, Jafar Panay's No Bears. All his films have been pushing the boundaries, whether it's Taxi, whether it's driving around with the camera on the dashboard. And here, what is real, he mixes it up so very well. For those who have seen the film, he's living near the border, writing a script. The police is keeping an eye on him. The villagers are keeping an eye on him. Will he escape from there? Won't he escape from there? And then, remotely he's directing another film that's being shot in another location. So he blurred the lines completely of what is real and, what was real in that movie. And as I said, I want to watch it again to decipher what else, or there's so much happening in that film. So that would be one of my favorite films of the year.
Josh?
Well, Everything Everywhere All at Once is an easy choice for a lot of us. I think it takes a concept that I've become very tired of as I've made my disinterest in Marvel films pretty clear. The whole multiverse angle, it's just I don't care anymore. But it made it relatable in a different way. The great marker of success for me is that my wife hates Marvel movies more than I do, and the multiverse angle. She was when I told her that was what Everything Everywhere was about, that was the central thematic thrust of the film. She had zero interest in watching that, and then when I took her, she was crying right next to me all through the film, because we all see our own regrets, we all see the mistakes and the choices that we've made and how they've led us to where we are, where we could be, and how we're not making the best of the life we've created for ourselves in this film. And that's what it's about. And that was the way that they took that they created that emotion in the audience was very brilliant. The other one is one that I'll probably talk about a little bit later also. Is a film I saw at South by Southwest called The Blind Man Who Did Not Want to See Titanic, which is a Finnish film that I really genuinely hope gets. I know it's got a distributor in the U.S. I hope it gets a release overseas as well. It's about a man who is legally blind, whose vision is impaired such that he cannot get around, but he can see shapes and colors. And it starts off as the story of a man who's carrying on a sort of wistful love affair with a woman on the other end of the phone. Both of them have their own disabilities, but they find this commonality in their struggle through their phone calls. And then he decides that he needs to go see her, and then horrible things are happening to him. But the innovative part of it is not only the sort of the story between the two disabled characters, but it's also the fact that the camera in the film is always on his face. All you see is his face, and it's from the distance from which he can actually see. So it's like 6 inches in front of his face, and everything else is blurred around him. And so you don't get a sense of his environment any more than he has a sense of his environment. And so really, technically, it's very innovative and very interesting to watch, and it works brilliantly. So look out for that one.
Okay. Raunaq?
Everything Everywhere All at Once easily. I think I have to watch it 3-4 more times to completely grasp it. But that shot, that scene with just those two rocks talking to each other, it's not going to leave me forever. But a couple more easy massy picks for me for easily would be Love. It's just that toilet scene. I lost it at that toilet scene. It was funny, and the thing is, you think you need a lot of budget to make for VFX and everything like that, but based on pure conceptualization. I don't know how he thought of that. And some people say it's inspired from Thor Ragnarok and all that. I don't know. I don't remember Thor Ragnarok, but that particular scene, and also Talumala. Mainly because I still don't get the exact order of the events that happened, but I really don't care. I had fun with it, and I'm a huge Edgar Wright fan, so anyone who can emulate that style like in such a genuine way, that in Indian cinema, my vote for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Love Today was for me also very special. Bhagwat sir?
For me, yeah, like Raunaq said, Tallumala was easily one of the most structurally interesting things from India, because like every fight led to a scene, or every scene led to a fight, and the scene's like an insanely simple concept, but just the way they pulled it off and the scale at will they pulled it off, and like Vishal said, that theater piece was so operatic. That fight there, it was like my God, what is happening here? And to think that if you've seen this director's earlier films and you come to this, it's like, what just happened to this guy? That it's so funny. Another film that really worked for me was again with Tamil. You don't find too many filmmakers breaking form. I mean, you find themselves very good with form, but you don't find too many of them experimenting or breaking form. And two movies did that this year for me. One was Paranjit's Natchatram Nagargirathu, which kind of was quite extraordinarily the most formally interesting film for me, because it is actually lecturing in places. It is actually there are parts of it that resemble a play being staged. There are parts of it that resemble a mega serial. There are parts of it that resemble a conversation. I mean, the way it all just comes together is it's just insane. It's like it's easily one of the most interesting experiments in form I've ever seen in my life, and especially because each of these forms are an outlet for the ideology, except that it's not following the same invisible cinematic form. He's deliberately inviting you to different types of places. Oh, there's even a kind of like a documentary kind of thing that's happening behind as people speak in front and all kinds of. So that was there. And Love Today is not a movie that I really liked a lot, but I really think it's easily the most important screenplay of the year, because I think it's going to influence a lot of future filmmakers, because it pretty much threw the concept of narrative and character development out of the window and staged the entire film as a series of like WhatsApp scenes, like reels or whatever it is. So it's like okay, I mean, in a normal film you might think that the heroine is acting like this in scene 6 and she's acting totally differently in scene 12 or something like that. But in this movie, it's structured in such a way that it doesn't matter at all. I mean, that's part of why I had a problem with it. But I could see, distancing myself from it, I could see that it was such a because the thing is, the idea is to grab the audience's attention, and he kept doing that with his scenes, or rather scenelets, rather than kind of letting things play out as big narrative or character arcs. And I thought that was really, really interesting in terms of just the concept.
Vishal sir?
For me personally, I think the start of this year there was a Malayalam film called Bhutakalam.
Yeah.
And it's like, for me, what's happened is horror as a genre just stopped working. Like, it just doesn't work for me. And whenever there's a horror movie coming up and all that, I try to not review it, because I'm just sitting there in the theater bored and coming back. So this movie kind of just brought back, like I could feel like scared legitimately, because it's about mental health, it's about insomnia, it's about grief, it's about like alcoholism or drug addiction or whatever. Everything that happens in that movie can happen to any of us. It doesn't happen in a haunted mansion that your car breaks down and then you go in. It's not like that. It's a regular middle class house. It's like a government quarters, and it's about the grandmom passing away. And I've never felt that scared watching a movie, at least after I've become like a grown adult kind of a thing. So for me, it's just brought back a genre, so I didn't think that was the other. Of course, high concept movies, they're amazing, but then you have an amazing high concept movie every year or every 2 years, right? But then this is like a part of me that had died had just been brought back alive. So
yeah,
I was super happy about that.
That film personally haunted me too.
Yeah.
But now let's do something fun. The most overrated film of the year according to all of you. I'll not take names. Whoever wants to name any movie, it's open field.
Who wants to get all the hate?
I'm gonna get thrashed, but KGF 2.
Okay.
I personally get it. I get why people like it. I am not saying it's a bad film, but I just couldn't understand the hype at all. I mean, I think I've mentioned this in my review as well. For me, it was a collection of every staple, commercial cinema trope that we've grown up watching for so many years, and they've done it very well. There's no denying that. But there was just nothing exciting for me, about that film, and I could see everyone else around me being so excited about that experience. I genuinely sat for 2 days and I was trying, okay, what is wrong with me? Why am I not able to? What is so different about me than not that it changed my opinion, but I really took that effort to understand why it was so entertaining or why it was so interesting and exciting for other people around. But for me, yeah, it was the most overrated film of the year.
Anyone else?
I think even today I got a DM. I didn't like Vikram, so then I still get DMs of people abusing me. I love KGF, but Vikram didn't work for me at all. I tried to go back and watch it; it's still not working for me. That whole crossover thing doesn't work for me anywhere. Like Marvel or Rohit Shetty or whoever tries it, it doesn't work for me. So I don't know.
I'm just so glad that I'm gonna get some company in, getting thrashed. Like I think we're gonna cover the entire gang,
Yeah, I think it's part of the job. I didn't like KGF and I didn't like Vikram either. So, but also with these terms underrated, overrated. I mean, I looked on IMDb and both KGF and Vikram have super high ratings. But when you look at Rotten Tomatoes, for example, when you look at film critics, both are kind of mixed anyway. So, yeah.
Okay. Anyone else?
I liked Vikram and KGF too, so I'm safe over here. But I think I'll get thrashed by the people over here for what is my most overrated film. There's this movie that got a lot of great reviews. It's called Kala. It's a Hindi film that just came out. I know Rahul really liked it. Yeah. But I don't know. It just looked gorgeous. It looked like the music is brilliant. One of the best albums and all of that. But I don't know. I've already seen more entertaining versions of it. I wasn't that emotionally invested. Like I've seen the Dirty Picture, which was done. Like I don't know if you can compare both films, but Rise and Fall, kind of a narrative of someone in the arts, in cinema, especially. I think I don't know. Kala didn't really work for me.
Okay. Anyone else?
We're still thinking whether we should stick our neck out.
I generally have a problem because whenever somebody says, tell me a movie to watch or tell me a movie, I don't know because I don't know other people's taste. And similarly, when it comes to overrated or underrated, all I know is it worked for me or not. I don't know. I mean, it's, I really don't know how to say if a movie is overrated or underrated or whatever it is. I mean, I can say that a movie was deserved more love or something like that. I would have thought that kind of a thing. But yeah, I don't know. I really don't subscribe to this overrated, underrated because all these ratings are, pretty much done by fans and other people. So I don't know if that really counts.
I think I agree with that.
Deserve less love.
Sorry?
Which one deserves less love?
Deserves less love.
I don't know. Rahul, I'm gonna fight with you on this. I think Geraya deserves less love.
Oh yeah. I think it got a lot of hate also. So
it was divided.
Not equal hate.
Yeah.
So I think Paddy rightly said, sometimes some films work for others, they may not work for you. So at best, you can possibly give an explanation why it didn't work for you. Or sometimes you probably can't even give a convincing explanation as to why it didn't work for you. but some films don't work for you. So if I may say, I saw Ponniyin here in Goa. I know now the whole thing will start about not understanding from where it comes from and the history behind it, etc., etc. But the fact of the matter is, I saw it in the theater with a lot of people, and many of us felt like, okay, what is this happening? Why is it happening? Where is this going? Does it have to go there? And things like that. So at best, we can only say that it didn't work for me. That's all.
Okay. I just want.
And that's what the thing is. It's like if it works for you, it doesn't work for you, and it's working for so many other people. You're probably going to say it's overrated. I mean, I guess that's what it is.
Yeah.
I guess then it's interesting to find out that what is it that we didn't understand. I think we've all seen enough films, to see other people's perspective also. So like RRR is a classic example where a lot of people hated it, but the least one can do as a film critic is to understand why other people have liked it so much, and especially to the degree that RRR has gone now.
I have a controversial pick. Northman. I honestly didn't get the hype around it, so I'm sorry. But the next one I want to ask all of you is a film that made you nostalgic. I think we had a discussion like some months back. Vishal was there, and we talked about the trend of making nostalgic films, and some are working, some are not. So a film that made you nostalgic this year in a good way, I would consider. Bad way also, if you want to pick one. Anyone?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
So Rhythm for me, obviously, that was literally nostalgia, like in every way, from marketing. Like they literally released, audio cassettes to market the album and stuff like that. And it was like looking at your own life in a way. But more than anything else, for me, like, that feeling that's kind of lost. Not about watching a first show Tamil film, but what like a spectacle, like whether it's Hollywood or whatever it is. Top Gun Maverick, right?
Yeah.
That it just, I expected absolutely nothing. I actually watched Top Gun the night before I went to watch Top Gun Maverick. I had no idea, but I went and it just blew the shit out of me. Like it's so clean, right? There's not much of like a story or anything as such.
There's no flaws.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm agree with it. Yeah, I agree with Raunaq because that was a movie that made me very nostalgic. Because unlike Raunaq, I've actually seen the original. But the other thing is also that, that there was a time when Hollywood used to make these B movies really well. Like just clean action movies like Predator or Top Gun or whatever it is. You didn't have complex psychologies, riding on them or whatever it is, but you had just enough to kind of keep you invested, and you pretty much went there. And this was a kind of a throwback to that, and it was gorgeous. I saw it on IMAX, and it was just mind blowing. It was one of the best cinematic experiences I had this year. Yeah.
Wow.
Can I just add one thing to that?
Yeah.
So, like what BR said about, the big spectacle like Hollywood used to make. I think Hollywood and Hindi cinema are kind of in the same way, in the sense like it's almost like they forgot to make these actually enjoyable films. They're either trying to cater to something that's already been done, remakes and all of that stuff, or it's just there's like a strong disconnect between what people really want to see or what people are actually about. There was this conversation between BR and Anurag Kashyap, right? Like what Kashyap is talking about is like there are few people sitting in South Bombay making all the decisions about what gets to be made and what should not be made, who have no idea about the outside world and stuff like that. So I think in that, like, there was one where Hindi cinema used to make, Border, Gadar, all of that. They're not great movies. They're exactly what BR said. It's like great B movies, right? You go there, you go into the theater, have a ball. But for some reason, it's kind of lost.
Yeah. Ishita, you have been quiet.
So my pick would be Vasan Bala's Monica, Oh My Darling. I mean, I had, it's a lot of fun, but I'll tell you why it made me nostalgic, because after a very long time, I watched a film and I couldn't wait to listen to the album, because the entire album was so good, which is such a rarity now.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it's Monica, my darling.
Josh, you're mute. You're mute.
Just saying, it's funny. Yesterday, I watched Monaco, My Darling in the morning and Top Gun at night. Today,
You're living the dream.
yeah, I know, right? Both great films. My pick for nostalgia is a little bit different in that it's not necessarily a cinematic nostalgia as much as it is nostalgia for the world as it was very recently, and that would be Jackass Forever. Jackass Forever, and in connection with that, Jackass 4.5, which is like the Netflix outtakes cut of the film where they kind of go behind the scenes and explain how all the things are done, and they have like stunts they didn't do in the actual film. It's like it's watching a bunch of friends just get together and have fun with each other, like without any kind of necessarily concern for where's this person been? Have they been masking up? Is this person vaccinated? Can I go? If I go to this party, is it going to be a crazy party where people aren't taking care of themselves, or is it going to be, you know, are these people I can trust? You know, and there's just so much trust in that group. It's obviously incredibly juvenile. That's the entire point of the thing. But it's endearing how much these people who are torturing each other, they're doing it because they love each other. Which, you know, first of all, men, especially men in the West, don't do that. Like it's a bit different in India. My experience with have been in India is that men are more expressive with their feelings for one another, which is
like me and Vishal.
Well, it's one of the things that people have commented on a lot about Triple R is the
Bromance, yeah.
aspect of it, yeah, which is people in India don't quite understand why we over here are sort of glomming onto that aspect of the film, but it's because there's such a machismo spirit on this side of the world that like showing any sort of affection for another man is gay. Like, and that's just, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. And these guys are like literally kicking each other in the balls the whole time. Every one of them has seen each other naked, you know, for 25 years, and no one thinks anything of it. But like the idea that these guys can get together and just do the same thing that they did 20 years ago. And if you watch the outtakes, the 4.5, it shows like how they started production of the film on, they said it was March 6th of 2020. And so they got like 1 day of production done, and then the whole thing shut down. And that's nostalgia for me, is just seeing like what it used to be like, you know, in a world without fear. Like, because even if you are like in a place where people are taking care of themselves, which I'm not, I don't know about you guys. Texas is kind of a rogue state at this point. You're always kind of a little bit wary of everyone around you, and the idea that these guys had sort of created this world, you know, with this, you know, bubble, as it were, was very nostalgic for me, and it made me feel like, oh, I remember that kind of world was fun. I want to be there again someday.
Okay, Jimmy.
I think a genre that always kind of evokes nostalgia for me is coming of age films. And I think we had a lot of great coming of age films this year. And it goes even further if it's a period coming of age film. And I wrote some down that I really loved. For example, Last Film Show, the Indian Oscar entry. I think it's a wonderful movie. It also has some special nostalgia for me because I myself worked as a projectionist for several years. And also the animated movie Apollo 10.5, which I thought was amazing, which is on Netflix. Armageddon Time, Turning Red, and I just saw The Fabelmans from Steven Spielberg, which also made me quite nostalgic for my childhood and my youth.
Rahul? Can you hear me?
Oh, wait. Oh, you're asking me. Okay.
Yeah.
No, nostalgic is the same answer as Raunaq because it was like Top Gun Maverick because for precisely the same reason. So I really have nothing to add there except like it's just nice to see Tom Cruise sort of be the flag bearer of the spectacle after so many years. Even though it's very weird to see him on screen as a 60-year-old doing these bizarre things, but I think that's exactly what we are nostalgic about: the big screen and the entire IMAX experience.
Yeah. Anyone else?
The film that made me nostalgic about films is, of course, Chup.
Oh.
How can you not get nostalgic on listening to a Gurudutt song or watching a small clip of a Gurudutt film on a big screen? I mean, that's sheer nostalgia. Because it reminds me of the days when Doordarshan screened Kagaz Ke Phool when I first saw it. During the election time, when elections results were running, Doordarshan used to show. Nona probably is too young to even know this fact that when there was only Doordarshan, not just Nona, probably many others are too young to know that you could. When elections happened in India, Doordarshan was running 24/7, and in between the election results, what do you do? So they used to show movies. So the movie would run for 3 hours. After 3 hours or 2 hours, somebody would come and say, "Okay, we got the result from so and so constituency." So that's when they had shown Kagaz Ke Phool once upon a time, and I saw that movie. I thought and kind of blew me away. And so as I said, watching Gurudutt on the big screen in any form, whether it's a song from his film or the man himself, is always a great nostalgic experience.
Anyone else?
No, for me, Avatar was like extremely nostalgic. I didn't expect to be so overwhelmed by that movie, and I just couldn't figure out why. Especially the relationship of that boy with that whale.
Yeah.
Something about that. It just. And I think it's because like when I was a kid, we used to have this cassette at home of this movie called Abyss, which is a movie nobody talks about when they talk about James Cameron. And so even in that, there's this what do you call it, this alien water
creatures,
that water thing that comes in. They everybody in the ship, they just very scared of it, and then they finally fall in love with that thing. I mean, that's the thing that helps everybody. So I don't know if it's that, but then something about Avatar made me very, very like nostalgic. It's very overwhelming for me.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know whether James Cameron took that long to make Avatar, or Vishal, you're that young that Avatar is making you nostalgic.
No, the new one.
I'm talking about the new one only, yes. I mean, it's just 12 years ago. Also, since you mentioned Abyss, I remember reading in Stardust a Sanjay Dutt interview where this is in the 90s, where he said Abyss is his favorite film.
Wow.
Okay. Ashamira?
Okay, so for me, I think it was Tiruchitrambalam. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the film. I mean, there are parts of it that I didn't really like, but the film was so grounded, and so there was this films in late 90s and early 2000s and even early 90s where top stars were like superstars, right? They were doing very simple family dramas, very simple rom-coms, where it's more about the relationships and interpersonal bonds and all that. We really don't see those kind of films being made with at least the A-listers. And in general, I feel that space is being very unexplored right now. There's a lot of action and thrillers. There's always a lot of films that go towards that trajectory. So just seeing Tiruchitrambalam just made me realize how empty that space has been, especially in the past few years. And it really made me think of all those films that I constantly go back to and watch right now, even now, like Rhythm, for example, or so many other nice feel-good films about simple family relationships. So yeah.
Okay. So we have 1 hour into it. Can we go on for 15 more minutes if everyone is okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
So my next question is the film you dreaded watching this year, and I'll start Beast.
Thanks.
I was like, what is this?
For taking one for the team.
Dude, I like the film.
I'm sorry.
It's all you.
Yeah.
I'm
Are we talking about the same beast?
The
Yeah, yeah,
Indian
yeah.
beast or the
Yeah.
foreign beast?
No, the Tamil Beast. Yeah.
The
Okay.
the Malwala. Yeah.
I've seen it 3 times. Yeah.
You didn't mention in that the most number movie you watched. But about what about others? Like a film
I think
like
for me it was Love Today.
Okay.
Because I mean, as well as it was made, I think it's also one other question that you'd mentioned. The film that made me have an existential crisis. That was also Love Today, because the film was it was just so blatantly sexist and problematic. And the fact that it was being passed off as entertainment was just infuriating, for the lack of a better word. And I mean, I completely agree that it's a very well made film, and there's a lot of craft related excellence there. I mean, I see all of that. I'm not denying all of that, but it also, for me, it felt like what's the point if you're gonna wrap an empty box in glitter paper? That's how it felt. And for me, it was just scary, man. I don't know. I can't think of a better word to explain that. Yeah.
Actually, I agree with. I mean, I very rarely agree with Ashmira, but I really agree with her about Love Today because, at my age, I'm 30 also. You're starting to think that you're like one generation old. Like now the movies are being made for us, the super juniors, people who are supposed to think very different. But then you watch Love Today, and there's so much of reels and there's so much of Tinder and Instagram and all that as very organically a part of the movie. But then you just look back and you make that a movie about emails or something like that. It's pretty much the same values.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the same things that they're saying. Like like did you sleep with that guy? Like it's the same issues. It's not like in terms of values or morals or anything, these people have become any modern. It's just modern because, okay, half of it happens on a phone screen. So I thought, okay, I mean, Anti's guy is supposed to be like much more like, liberated than we were and all that.
Yeah.
So it was kind of disappointing, yeah.
And I started that argument.
Sorry, yeah, go on.
No, please go on.
Okay. For me, no, it was just scary to see an actual crime being compared to a lie, which is an ethical, conundrum, or to have a fake account and harass people or extort money or use it to get photos. That's an actual legal crime. You can get arrested for it. And lying is definitely not on the same plane. And to put it in a way that these both of them are flawed people. No, you cannot compare those two. It just doesn't work that way. That was very scary for me. And to make it feel like it's so normalized and so funny. How can you make someone's harassment funny, right? So that was very scary.
And one of the biggest laughs in the theater. I mean, I could see why people are laughing, but the punchline of that joke was basically like, it's a casting couch joke. Like, okay, I act like a short filmmaker and I ask models for pictures, and it's supposed to be a huge joke, but then I'm like, I don't get it,
Tribal pictures.
Tribal pictures, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with that because as much as I found the structure and all interesting, that thing was that's why I said I had I've had a very tough time writing the review because on the one hand I was seeing what was like how it was done, but the other hand it was saying that it's like this anti-boomer movie. But the values it's propagating is basically all more values like virginity and this and that, and the girl should it was all like watching. You could watch an 80s film and pretty much get the same kind of values. That was this part. I thought they would really push and kind of get into how couples behave today. Especially when in a city like Chennai, which is supposed to be a conservative city, you have so many people living in together and things like that, and that's actually coming out on programs on TV like Nia, Nana, and all that. To kind of have a movie reflect this going back to that was very underwhelming, to say the least. But I had a discussion with a lot of people, and they said this is exactly why the movie is a hit, because people do not like their values being questioned in a movie theater. They know that the woman has to be pure. So if you marry a woman kind of who's been in a sex tape or whatever it is, that's going to really, really disturb the audience, and they want to go home with a smile that everything is okay. And I'm like, but if you want to make that movie, then make a different movie. Don't make this movie.
I think with the videotape subject, Hadilentu, the Kannada movie did a fantastic job.
Oh, that was fantastic. Hadilentu was fantastic.
Such a great film.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And he's been making such good films, which...
Yeah, and just like Pinky Ali and all that, just amazing stuff.
Railway Children, Pinky Ali.
Yeah. Actually, that thing made me rethink about Love Today. I actually, when you said that, right, I actually remember I saw when those things happened, I saw it as a flaw in the character. But I guess at the end, they don't really talk about it. So they don't talk, oh, that was a flaw. They just move on. So I guess it does make sense. But what about others?
But don't they address that? Even the girl calls him out, right? He's like, you're sick.
Where does that scene end? It ends with, Adchampar Mama Kuti, which is again a punchline to her ex and her, flaws. And all of his, his flaws, again, are normalized, placed as humor, where you can laugh at it, where it's actually not something that you should be laughing at. But when you look at the girl's perspective, all those flaws that she's been making are all revelations, shocking revelations, very angry situations where the guy gets to say stuff like, enna mari nalla pasangala ivanga mari ponnunga da ematranga, those lines, all of that. I can't get one equivalent of the girl for the same.
No, plus it's a film about trust, right? It's supposed to be a film about trust. The deeper layer of that film is supposed to be about how you need to trust your partner and all those kinds of things. But then that line that the film draws for trust is so standard. It doesn't that the line that they draw for trust is not anything exceptional. So it's a line that every movie draws. I trust you as long as you are so many things. That's it's not a ballsy thing to do or anything, right?
My battery is showing 18%.
So anyone else?
I think the others are wondering, oh my God, what is this movie that's being discussed so much? Because it's just kind of...
Josh, Jimmy.
It's on Netflix, by the way. I mean, if someone wants to, can go catch it.
Josh, Jimmy, any movie you dreaded watching?
I will go. So I'm fortunate in that when I go to write about things, I kind of have a lot of latitude as far as what I'm writing about most of the time. And so I tend not to accept assignments that I have no interest in or that I dread. One film that I don't know that I was dreading, but I wasn't really that into on the surface would have been Top Gun Maverick. I didn't have much hope for it before I actually went and saw it in the theater and was blown away. And so that was a pleasant surprise. But then this year I was assigned a couple of movies we've already talked about. I was assigned to go watch Beast, and I've never been a Vijay fan. I don't get it. I think I've mentioned this before.
You got your headline for the thumbnail.
Yeah, I don't understand, and that movie really didn't help. And then Liger, who I remember the first time I watched a Puri Jagannath film was Buddha Hoga Terabap years ago. I saw that one in the theater, and at the time it was my first Puri Jagannath film, and I was like, I love this. This is great. Like this is wonderful. And then I saw a few more, and I was like, oh, it's all those other movies are the exact same as this movie. Like and then Liger's just somehow worse. I don't know how that happened. It's like I always try when I'm writing a negative review or a review that is not, overflowing with positives, to find something encouraging about the film. And it was a real struggle with Liger to pull anything positive out of that film. It's so many missteps. And so I was kind of dreading that, having a little bit of experience with Puri Jagannath. And unfortunately, my instincts proved to be true in that case. It was not really.
So,
Josh, sorry, but you just spoiled our evening by mentioning Liger.
I almost forgot that existed.
I thought I had forgotten about it, but now...
Hey, at least you guys are going to bed soon. This is the beginning of my day. I got to think about it.
Our sympathies are with you.
So we are running out of time. So just last two questions quickly. So the first one is a film you saw that made you write your or shoot your best review this year. That you feel, this was amazing what I wrote, or this film made you just go places you loved it. That didn't sound
it was certainly a very interesting review when we did KGF Chapter 2, because it was a joint review with my best friend Dennis, and we saw it in 2 different cinemas. And the thing was, at the cinema where I watched the movie, they screwed up, and so I only watched the second half of the movie. And nobody realized until the movie was over. So the movie just started, you were in the middle of it, and because the movie's all elevated, you kind of assume, maybe that's how it should be. Nobody's really introduced it, you don't know what's going on, but it's probably right. And then after just 80 minutes or so, the movie ends and the credits are rolling, and you think, that can't be right. And then they couldn't show us the first half because there was something with the DCP. And so I went home and we immediately got on a call. Yeah, we immediately got on a call and reviewed the movie. And Dennis luckily saw the entire thing, and I only saw the second half. So that was a special experience and a special review.
At least at home with that one, you can modulate the volume, because the volume in that movie was out of control.
Absolutely.
The turban helps, but even then it was not. Anyone else?
What is the question? Which one is this again?
So what film made you write your best review or of the year?
I mean, for me, there were 3 that I have on my list that you sent me, and they were all. This is odd because they were all festival viewings. I was at South by Southwest, and usually when you're at a festival, the clock is ticking. So, you want to have your stuff out with everyone else's reviews as quickly as possible. So, generally speaking, not as much thought as you would prefer goes into those sometimes. But in these cases, it was Everything Everywhere All at Once, because I felt so much that I had a lot to give with that film. The Blind Man Who did not want to see Titanic again. That had me going, had me thinking quite a bit about the craft of the film, the way that the structure supported the characters and the formal aspects supported the narrative and all that kind of thing. And then there's a film called Soft and Quiet, also played at South by Southwest. I got into an argument on the internet yesterday about it, so that's great. Which is a real-time thriller about hate crime, which happens everywhere. In this case, it happened to be a hate crime against a pair of Latina women by white nationalists in the States. Not based on any specific incident, but still very relatable to things that are going on here, and obviously things that are going on other places in the world. But the film it's upsetting because it's supposed to be, and it's making you feel things that are uncomfortable because that's the way people feel when these things happen. And and that brought up a lot of things. I mean, these are people who are, they could be my aunts, they could be my sisters, they could be women that I know, that are the same color as me. It's always odd when I go back to India, as I'm the white guy, and I'm like, I'm not the white guy here. My skin is clearly not that color. Thankfully, I have this ring light that can show me a little bit better. But Soft and Quiet was one that really, it's the ones that make you think immediately that if you're in the business of writing these things, really help get those juices flowing. Sometimes you'll have thoughts later on the films that were sort of mediocre or whatever, like, oh, well, if I think about that in this other perspective, or if I read someone else's review after I've written my own and they come up with this perspective, and I look at it from their side, like, oh, okay, I see what you're saying, and that's one thing. But the ones that were most immediate for me were those three.
Anyone else?
I wouldn't say it made me write my best review, but RRR again. You watch an 8 a.m. show. I was in Nagpur in a single screen theater. You come out and you write a review. You still haven't digested it all, and you're supposed to write a review. Now, of course, in reflection, there is so much dissection that can be done as to what was the theme of the film, X, Y, Z things. But I think whatever I wrote, I'm mighty pleased with it. And one of the things, I mean, at that time, nobody knew it's going to be a global phenomenon. At that time, nobody knew whether it will be an Indian phenomenon for that matter. You just watch the film first show in the morning. And one of the things that, which is kind of, which hopefully, or we don't know, might become true some days. I said, if Rajamouli can do this with an Indian context, I would love to see Rajamouli do a Mission Impossible or a James Bond film in the future with big budgets, big scale. I mean, he can, and it's kind of, we've seen it from the reaction around the world that he can very well do that and pull it off also, if it happens someday. So, sometimes you just watch a movie and you come out and you don't know how it's going to, that happens to all films, but especially a film that has gone, broken barriers and gone across borders. And so that made me feel very good, actually.
Rahul?
In a very different vein, I just enjoyed slamming the shit out of Kashmir Files this year.
Okay.
I mean, I'd say it was my most satisfying piece to write because it was so obvious. And this was the same answer to the existential crisis question as well. So yeah, your feed might just go viral after this in the wrong side of the internet.
Actually skipped the existential. I thought we kind of covered it in a way, but I guess there were familiar answers. Anyone else?
For me, sorry, please go.
No, please go ahead. You've been quiet for a while, and so you should be talking.
So for me, there are two films. One is Worst Person in the World, which I watched when I was covering Sundance earlier this year. And I mean, it's very strange because, you generally watch a film and you try to dissect it and all. And I just felt that the film saw me better than I saw the film. Oh. Like, I was 29, about to turn 30. The protagonist was 29, about to turn 30. So I'm like, I totally get what is going on. So even when I was writing it, it just seemed like for the first time as a writer, I felt the film opened up to me, even without me trying to, decipher what is going on. So that happened. And the second is Lucas Doan's Close, which we watched at Kerala Film Festival. And it will hopefully drop on Mubi next year, but it's just one of those films which you like watching it. I felt I was waiting to watch it this year, and like I saw through the whole time, and when I was writing about it, it just flowed, which never happens.
Ashamira?
Okay, yeah, so for me, I think I don't know what best really means when I'm talking about myself, because I'm a very self-depreciating person, and nothing I do is, when I go back, all I see is mistakes, or all I see is the things that I've missed that I could have probably, included. But I think the most satisfying piece that I've written is Love Today, because I think that's the most that I've been engaged on. And so generally, I like having conversations. I like, listening perspective from the other side. And even if, one person says that, okay, you've made me think, not even, I think that's the greatest compliment I can get. And I've been grateful to get that from so many people, especially for that piece. So for me, that was my win this year. Yeah.
It made me think too.
Thank you.
So the final question of the day, there are not many, but it's okay. 2022, one word to describe it. The movies you saw, or the whole, your life in this year, whatever. One word, not maybe one word, one line, whatever. So if you can start one by one, let's start from BR sir.
I think it's been a strange year because it's the first full year that we've emerged from the pandemic, and though there are signs that movies are doing well in theaters, for example, I'll just take Tamil cinema for instance. You've had two monster hits in Vikram and Ponniyin Selvan, and a lot of there's only about 6 to 7 distributors that actually made back their money theatrically. That's a shockingly horrible low number, because producers make back the money through OTT and all that, the sales of music rights and all that kind of stuff. But when you're looking about the actual ecosystem that existed before the pandemic, it's really like in a very bad shape right now. And I don't know if this is just maybe this year or if this is going to be, how things are going to be. But yeah, it's like on the one hand, yeah, there's a lot to celebrate because there are so many big hits. But actually, there aren't that many big hits. It's just like 4 or 5, which we just keep talking about those particular 4 or 5 films. But like in Tamil, if you take the 5 hit films and you look at the rest of them, compared to the 5, there's like 150 that just tanked. And you're talking about star-driven films. You're talking about all kinds of films, and you're talking about good, solid films, not just like bad films. However subjective these terms are. But for me, that was 2022, a very strange year where no real pattern emerged. Because last year, when I was speaking to people, they said that next year, okay, we'll begin to know what's going to happen in the industry. But I don't think that's really happened as yet. So.
Sachin sir, before your battery dies.
I think you back summed it up quite nicely. 2022, I felt great because we are back to the theaters. If there's one thing that I despise to a degree is watching movies at home. I can talk elaborately about that as to why it's no fun watching at home. But even if it's a bad film, I don't mind watching it in the theater rather than watch a mediocre film at home. So the best thing about 2022 is getting back to the theaters, and hopefully we'll see more films and hopefully better films also next year. So.
Raunaq?
I think for me, it's like 2 words. It's satisfying and sad at the same time. Satisfying because in one way, even if the ratio is off, like we are, like the ratio might be like some film worked, a lot of film didn't work. But this time, South films like really worked, and in the context of Hindi cinema, actually realizing like a wake-up call, seeing that there is something we really need to fix over here. And I think in every single interview you can feel that people they already have rehearsed answers as to what they'll answer when a journalist asks them, what do you think about South films? What do you think about Hindi films? They have this rehearsed answer, and everyone says we just have to make good stories and good content will always deliver. But this is like a hard wake-up call, and it's also sad for me because there's a lot of good Hindi films also which didn't get like really good. For example, I went to watch an action hero, and there were like 12 people in the theater or something. And I loved that film. It was such a enjoyable film, not a single scene out of place or anything, but there was no one to actually enjoy it, and there was no one to talk about it. It's the same thing, like if someone's trying something different also, if Ayushmann is trying to do something different, no one gives a shit, no one's coming to the theater. So you feel sad also for Hindi cinema because you've been also brought up on that, and hopefully they'll maybe figure out next year, but I really don't know how. I don't know the way forward at all. It looks like in a strange way, like Via said, it's strange about what is the next model that they're going to crack. Like I have absolutely no clue.
Ishita?
So I'm like hopeful. I feel like I shouldn't be saying it. I mean, it's also a year where Rohit Shetty film didn't work, Akshay Kumar films didn't work, so things are not as bad as they seem.
Ashamira?
I'm going to go with 2 words. One will be surprising, because a lot of films that raked in the moolah, I had no clue that they would become so big. And I was just in the padma. I mean, this one really, the way it captured the imagination of the audiences and their attention and their, the excitement it created, that was very surprising for me. And the second would be exhausting because just the amount of films that we had. I mean, there's been a lot of pushover from the pandemic that just came in at like one go, and so it was just like, oh my god, I have so much to see, and I'm missing so much, and it's just not in one Indian industry. It's all over the country, and yeah, it was surprising and exhausting at the same time.
Vishal sir?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I mean, now when I'm sitting and I'm thinking about movies, when I just literally no movie that I'm really excited about, So I don't know. It's like a pretty weird year. I think for me the year peaked with KGF 2. After that, it's pretty much been downhill, So and I'm really, there's no one single movie that I'm really excited about from next year either. So I don't know. It's so sad that this year, I mean, the pandemic is over and it's not like the best year ever for Indian cinema or anything like that.
Vishal, Baris is coming. You like Beast, so there's something to talk about.
Vishal, do you have any plans of finding anything else this year? Or?
No, Barry, don't say anything. I mean, he's anything more, I'll get killed on Twitter. So let it be.
Jimmy?
I was actually very excited about a lot of films from this year. I loved a lot of films, but I want to be hopeful for the future of cinema, but I'm also kind of anxious because so many great movies and only so few that made a lot of money. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how these movies can make back their money, because there's also so much content, so many things to watch, and you can barely keep up with all the stuff. And this year I've only in quotation marks seen like 120 new movies because of personal stuff with the family. So but even and there are so many more movies I have to check out before I make my top 10 list, and yeah, I don't know.
Rahul?
Yeah, but it's been a disorienting year for me, I think for a lot of us, because also as someone who primarily covers Hindi cinema, there's always a sense that time is running out and there's a lot of great stuff out there, but you have to do your job. And there are, and as even Ashamira said, it's been such a prolific year. I feel like 2 years worth of stuff has dropped together. And I found myself struggling to watch everything, which was never the case earlier. I used to watch literally every single release of the year as far as Hindi cinema is concerned, but I couldn't get through even half of it this year. So it was a fairly disorienting year. And, I just hope I get an opportunity to watch more than just what I'm covering, which is Bollywood, because, I'm getting stunted because of that, and to expand the horizons a bit.
Josh?
At the end of the year, I always try to think positively about every year is a great year for films if you're just watching the right films. I tend to be, even though my Twitter handle is fairly negative, my attitude in life has sort of improved since I coined that. Now I'm stuck with it. I'm stuck being hateful for the rest of my life because whatever. But I think that one of the things specifically about Indian films that's been challenging, and I think goes to what a lot of people have said here, is that the pandemic, and this has happened with Western films as well, the pandemic has changed the landscape so much that these, but with Indian films specifically, that the theatrical windows are being squeezed completely almost out of existence. So you've seen films that could have done amazing things if they'd just gotten a chance to get legs, but they've already had their OTT date set before the thing even comes out in theaters. And so 3 weeks later, they're going to be in your home. And I don't think that's definitely affecting box office numbers, as people are seeing, oh, well, this film came out, at the beginning of April or whatever, and now I know at the end of April I'll be able to watch it at home, so why don't I just do that? I'm already paying for this service. Why would I spend more money? And I think part of the problem is that there have been films, after RRR, which is an anomaly, as far as the international recognition and all that kind of stuff. We've worked very hard on it. It's not an accident, but it is an anomaly. there are films that have come through this year where I'm like, you know what, I think that this film had the potential to get more attention, but the contracts are in place, the dates are set. Once you sell the rights off, the producers have no say over when it's going to show up on the OTT. It's the platform's decision. If the platform sees there's heat, the platform's going to put it out. And that can chop off some films at the knees that might have had a bit more of an opportunity to run, where they're just sort of being allowed to walk. And I'm hoping that in the year that will sort of balance out, and then in the next coming year or two, that people will see that the theatrical experience has value. The communal experience has value. That's how we build a discussion about the film beyond Twitter. Real life discussions happen, which are important. And so I'm hopeful for the future that this year, like you guys were saying, there was a glut of content that sort of dumped into the film ecosystem, and that maybe we'll be able to level out a little bit more, in the coming year or two.
So I'll just end by saying my year ended well with having so many amazing people. I could bring them together. I got to know them this year, so that was amazing for me. And I just feel that a decade later, I feel this year, next year will be called the golden era of cinema, because today we have the most knowledgeable audience out there who are exposed to everything. And now everyone is uncertain and scared what will happen. So this is the best time where the best things will come out. So I'm hopeful, fingers crossed. But thanks to all of you for your time. It was amazing. I know we couldn't finish many questions. There were so many amazing questions in the chat. Thanks to them. So again, but it's good that we couldn't complete, so there's area, so we could, maybe next time we do it. That's always amazing. So thank you, all of you. I hope you had a good time. I hope it went well. If there were mistakes, I'm sorry. It's the first time I'm doing something like this.
Thank you, Nona. This is the best roundtable ever. Thank you.
Just want to add one more thing. We do this Film Fair Awards in January, where we want to appreciate and award the best film, which are fair. So I hope you guys also become the jury voters for that. I'll let you know when that happens. But yeah, any final words, anyone, before we end?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nona. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, chat, for watching, and I hope you had a good time. See ya. Bye bye. Good night.
Thank you.